My name's Trevor Martin, and I wanted to thank you all for joining me tonight. Tonight, we're going to do an episode of The Way of the Warrior, and I have with me a coach in the industry. His name is Chris Pienkowski. Chris, I hope I said the last name right.
You got it.
Yes. So, like I said, I'm glad that everybody is able to join us. Tonight, we're going to be talking about leadership and the paths that we take during certain processes, during certain events that happen in our lives. And Chris, I would love if you would kind of take a moment and tell people like what got you to where you're at today.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Trevor. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. If you can't tell from my accent, I'm from Philadelphia, born and raised in Philly. Grew up in a blue collar family. Working class neighborhood. Most of the men in my family for the past 4 generations have been in the construction trades.
Right on.
And I guess, man, helping other people is just kind of part of my DNA. Growing up, like we lived in a row house growing up. And I guess by today's standards, we would have been like working poor. 5 people. 2-bedroom, 1-bath row house, less than 1,000 square feet. Kind of rough neighborhood sometimes. But I had this next door neighbor who was the nastiest lady in the world. Like if a ball went into her yard, dude, she was coming out. She was yelling at you. You'd never see that ball again. She would squirt you with the hose. And like our yards were like 10 feet by 10 feet. They weren't big. But she was an old widow. Kids had like grown up and moved away. And every winter when it would snow, my mom would always make me go shovel this woman's walkway and her steps. And I was like, old lady Diane is just so nasty. Like she hates me. I hate her. Why am I going to go shovel for her?
Yeah.
And my mom was like, because it's the right thing to do. So she's got no one else to do it. She needs to get out and go grocery shopping, whatever. So you're gonna do the right thing here.
Yeah.
And I guess I've been like that the rest of my life. You know, I'm the person who I was always told if someone's being picked on who's smaller than you, it's your job to kind of step in and do the right thing. If I see that now, like in my adult life, I see someone being mistreated, see someone being, picked on, I'm standing up. I'm going to say something. And it's just who I am. It's who I raised my boys to be. And it's long ingrained in my DNA.
Chris, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact, you touched on it. I'm going to do it because it's the right thing, right? I'm going to stand up for people because it's the right thing. I'm going to say, when somebody has that bully mentality or just that raw bad attitude, right? That really impacts people in a negative way. I'm not going to be silent. I'm going to say something. I'm going to come forward and say, look, that's not right. How do we get to a place where we can get along? How do we get to a place of agreement? And I think that, in today's day and age, especially when it comes to leadership, the ability to do that, the ability to navigate those types of conversations or those types of incidents is so important, and it's so key. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind of the backstory of not only where you're from, but why you choose to represent doing what's right, in your current role. So in your current role, as it states, what is that one of the it sounds to me like integrity is very, very high on your list.
Integrity is super high on my list. And if I could backtrack for just a minute, I guess I was doing the right thing very early in life. I'm talking like 6, 7 years old. My mom's making me shovel the walkway for this lady that just I hate it, right?
Yeah.
And then fast forward a few years, I joined the Boy Scouts, and that was my first exposure to leadership, right? So I'm already coming into the Scouts with this like want to help people mentality. Then I started learning about leadership, and the two just in my mind go hand in hand.
Sure.
And even to this day, like when I started my own practice, it took years of me creating this framework of leadership that I call high impact leadership.
Okay.
And the fourth principle of high impact leadership is conviction and caring. So it's conviction, meaning knowing who you are, what you stand for, your core values, the values of the organization, and also wanting to bring others along to be the best that they can, setting an example, helping them to achieve that example, achieve those standards. So, yeah, that's part of the principles of leadership that I teach to people, and it's deeply ingrained.
Absolutely. And that makes me smile because one of the things I love talking about core values. So when you think about, and I know that you're very familiar with this from when I was starting out and I reached out to you and asked for a discovery interview, right? Like I knew that you were established in the industry and you were established had an established practice. And I can remember thinking, I wanted to make sure that I talked to somebody that had already been through a self-awareness journey. So had established, I know who I am. I've got a foundation established. I understand that my core values. And I think I absolutely believe that is so important, that before we're able to help others, before we're truly be able to elevate, others in their own growth, we've got to be able to make sure that we can do that, or that we've done that ourselves, that we have gone on that journey, that we understand what it takes to continue to grow and continue to become best self. So I'm right there along with you. I love that.
Absolutely. That our core values are our North Star, right? It's the filters.
Preach.
Yeah, man. It's the filters that help us to behave in a certain way, that help us to take action, to avoid certain things. But those are all the filters. Things are flying at us from every different angle, and it's what makes us us. And it's how we treat people, it's how we act, it's how we view the world. Some people's core values, if they don't have them, they're super negative. They don't know how to treat people.
Yeah.
But it's so important. It's who you attract as the people in your tribe. It's your closest friends, your coworkers. Core values are so important.
Absolutely, man. I could not agree more. So, Chris, as we look at just leadership in general, I've got a couple questions I want to ask you tonight, and the first one is this: what does positive leadership mean to you?
So positive leadership, I'm gonna say that it's the way that we motivate and inspire people to achieve a common goal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's our job as leaders to help others to be the best version of themselves. That's,
John.
in my opinion, positive leadership. It's leading by example. It's, you can never underestimate the fact that your people see everything you do. There's no hiding. There's no shortcuts when you're a leader. So you always have to lead by example. And it's just about, helping others to elevate in a way that's not focusing on their weaknesses, but drawing upon their strengths and helping them to, hey, this is where we need to tune the dials a little bit to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And that's positive leadership, man.
Oh, I love that. I keep playing in my mind. Mindset matters. Mindset matters, right? When we think of positive leadership, positive intent, right? When we show up for others, where's our mind at, right? Are we truly engaging with the team, with the other person, and are we doing it in a way that's truly setting them up for success, especially mentally, right? If we show up, to your point, like if we show up on tilt and we're not in the game, man, we have failed. Not only are we going to fail, but we've also failed our team as well.
Yeah.
I I love that, man. I really, really do. Yeah.
And, if I remember right, I think you and I talked about maybe the first time that we talked is this concept of giving feed forward instead of feedback
Yes.
to your people. Yeah. So, it's something that was created by this guy named Marshall Goldsmith. He's like the grandfather of executive and leadership coaching. But the whole premise behind feed forward is that when you're looking back, giving feedback, that's stagnant. It's looking at past actions, past failures, as opposed to feed forward is future facing. It's dynamic. It's saying, hey, look, this is where we are now. This is what got us here. And this is what we need to improve to get us there. It's not looking back and just bashing your people over the head like, this is what's wrong. It's, all right, look at the situation. Now, how do we move forward? Just another example of positive leadership. It's future facing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So feed forward instead of feedback, dude. Yes, I remember that. I love that, man. So, another thing too that I really like what you said, Chris, was you mentioned when we think about positive leadership, we want to focus on our team's strengths, focus on what they're good at and make it even better. So many times people are like, oh man, okay, you're good at these things, but as a leadership coach, let's focus on the things you're not good at and let's get you up to speed. Let's elevate those. And we forget about the things that people are good at and really focusing on those to make them even better, to make them greater. So I really love the fact that you pointed out, look, we need to focus as leadership coaches, as with positive intent, we need to focus on the things that people are good at and make them even better at that and raise the levels. Dude, that's spot on for sure. Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah. You don't ignore the weaknesses, but you've got to keep pouring into the strengths.
For sure. For sure. Love it, man. Okay. So as we think about the leadership journey, sometimes, I'll be honest. Sometimes I'll find myself as I'm coaching others, right? I'm a very energetic guy, so as I'm coaching others, I'm like, yeah, let's go. I'm putting all of this energy. And then I take a step back where maybe I'm done for a little bit, right? And I calm down and I dial it back a little bit. And I really start to maybe even get in my head or just look around at me at the world, at the news. And sometimes I've got to find a way, Chris, to really just buckle down and keep myself where I need to be during those times of uncertainty, right? Those times that we're just questioning. So let me ask this. How do you, as a leadership coach, how do you keep yourself motivated during those times of uncertainty?
That's a good question because as a coach, right, we need to keep ourselves motivated and we've got to help others to do the same thing.
Right on. Yeah.
For me, man, there are a few things that I do. Number one, I draw upon my past, right? When things are uncertain in the current or it's not looking good in the future, I'll reflect on my past and where I've come from versus where I am now. And I've always had the mentality of oh, something's going to be hard, bring it. You tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it just so that I do it, right?
Have you seen the shirt, right? I hear you.
Yeah, exactly. So in fact, right, so as a young man, my approach to adversity was always I'm going through it or I'm going over it, right?
Right on.
And now as I've gotten older, I look for, all right, is there a way around it? I'll still go through it. I'll still go over it, but I take a more measured approach. But for uncertainty, I'm focused more on progress over perfection. Hey, what can I do today to move the needle a little bit? What can I do this week to move the needle a little bit? what are the things outside of my ability to control that I'm getting hung up on that I just need to stop thinking about and just focus on what's in my control? And what are the things that I need to smash? And what are the things that I have to take a more gentle approach with? And like, I know that you'll appreciate this, but for me, like, I've got my spirit animal right here that reminds me that sometimes I need to smash through things and sometimes I need to take a measured approach. And when things are uncertain, that's what it comes down to. It's evaluating the balance.
Okay.
What can I control? What can I not control? Focus on these things that I can and just make progress. Just one step forward today is better than sitting and hoping that something happens, right? Or waiting for something to happen. When you control your own destiny, then you've got no one else to blame for where you go. You've got no one else to say, hey, you carried me along here. That's what it's all about. Coming back to mindset, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how am I going to get over this? I can't control what's going on in the rest of the world. Can't control what's going on in DC or wherever. I control what's going on outside of Philadelphia, in my house, in my business, and how do I move it forward? I put the blinders on, right? Like a racehorse.
Yeah, I love that, Chris. I love the avoiding stagnation, excuse me, the one step forward, right? One foot in front of the other. Look, I am going to do this. I also really appreciate the bear with me. Oh, the balance, right? You're talking about, okay, look, do I a measured approach or am I coming at you full steam, right? How am I going to approach this situation? I think that's spot on. And to your point, wrapping it up and tying it all the way back to what's the mindset, right? And the mindset is so key when thinking of those times of uncertainty. Because, brother, I'll admit, I've been on tilt before, right? You think everything's going right. You think your leadership coaching sessions are going great. Your clients are happy, and then it can be one small thing. Like for me, this is gonna sound kind of crazy, but like I'll get on LinkedIn and maybe I'll have written my heart out. Like it's just an epic story. In my mind, it's a movie. Like who wouldn't want to watch this, right? It's amazing. Yep. And I'll click post and then I'll come back about 4 hours later and it's got like 5 views, right? Five likes. And you're like, oh, what? That was epic, man. That was so good. And then you're like, and so you start to get in your head. You're like, man, I'm not hitting the audience. I'm not getting my message out. And then it just snowballs. And you're like, but I'm not going to write for 4 days. And so I really, for me, Chris, I really take that to heart, right? When in times of uncertainty, you've got to make sure you understand where your mind is at.
100%. And I had a great example today. So Memorial Day weekend, opening up the pool, and my boys are having friends over tomorrow. So I'm out there and there was a problem with our pool pump. And I'm like, what the hell's going on, right? Am I going to have to order a new one of these? I'm not going to get it in time. And I just had to stop and say, all right, let's breathe. Let's figure this out. Pull up YouTube. How do I take this bad boy apart? What can I do to fix it? And, within a half an hour, I had it apart. I had it rebuilt, had it back together, pumps working. And that was just, all right, what can I control? What can I not control?
Yeah.
What can I exhaust before I have to go to the next step? And so it happens in real life, happens in business, it happens everywhere.
Absolutely. Going back, and it's so important. I talk to people all the time about, and then obviously having to apply it myself, right? It's really easy to talk to others about it, but when you got to face it yourself, that control circle, right? Okay. Things are on fire. What can I control? What can I put out in here? What can I affect, right? What can I do? And what can I have a direct impact on? Absolutely. That whole control circle, that's so key. And I love the story about I'm right there with you on the pump, right? You got something going on. You're like, man, I'm not going to hit this deadline. YouTube shall be my savior.
That's right.
hell, hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So Chris, you're ever since I've run into you or ran into you and started to follow you and Straight Arrow coaching and watching and learning and listening to your videos and your posts on LinkedIn, taking notes, right, and learning and adapting. I got to ask, and so my final question is this, what got you started on this journey, and what makes you want to be a coaching, and what drives you, excuse me, to help others?
Um, that's a great question. And again, it comes back to that wanting to help being in my DNA. And throughout my entire professional career, I've started and run a couple businesses. I've led turnarounds of businesses. And it got to the point where I always wanted to come in and help people in the turnaround space. Like, I'll just focus on doing the turnarounds. I never wanted to work at a company for a super long amount of time, where to come in, solve a problem, and elevate a new leader into my position and work me out of a job. So I was coaching people without even calling myself a coach, without even thinking about it. It was just part of what I did. And in 2018, I exited my last turnaround, and I was thinking, like, okay, what's next, right? What's the next opportunity? And just in reflection, I looked back on my career and said, where have I gotten the most like personal like value? Where's it hit me like right here? It's always been watching those other people to succeed. And
Oh
I said,
yeah.
that's what I want to do. You know what? I don't want to go turn around another company. I don't want to go do anything else. I want to help other people be the best leaders that they can be. I want to take 25 years of experience and apply that and just dedicate myself to that. So for the past 5 years, that's what I've been doing. I've been bringing all that knowledge and trying to help other people.
Chris,
So
I absolutely love that, and I would say this: not only do you bring that knowledge, to your current company, your current role, I say you also bring that passion, right? You can see that not only you can see that in your posts, you can see that in the videos that you're dropping, and obviously tonight. And that was one of the things that I gravitated towards, when I found you on LinkedIn, and still, obviously to this day, it resonates with me, and I know it resonates with others as well. So I think I think that is it's absolutely amazing to be able to witness. It's amazing to be able to continue to learn from you, and continue to see the good that you are putting out in this world, especially considering the background and the backstory that you talked about earlier, where you came from. When we go through the school of hard knocks, a lot of times, and we know this, a lot of times it doesn't end up like this, right?
that's right.
We may not take that pot, going back to what you said earlier, going back to that mindset. Sometimes it becomes dark and it doesn't end up this way.
That's right.
So I really, Chris, I appreciate the time tonight. I really do. Before we close out, is there anything that you want to say to the audience about what you do, about Straight Arrow, and how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I appreciate it. So my company is called Straight Arrow Coaching. They can find me at straightarrowcoaching.com. On all the socials, everything is at Chris Pienkowski, all one word. And across the different platforms is pretty similar, mostly leadership related. But if it's Instagram, sometimes I'm talking about fitness, I'm talking about jujitsu, which all, in my opinion, tie back to leadership, right? If you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. If you're beaten up and you can't physically move because you're out of shape, you're not going to be inspiring to others. If you can't stand up for people, because I know that 3 nights a week I'm on the mats trying to murder my friends and they're trying to murder me. And for an hour and a half, like we're just getting after it. I've got the confidence to be able to stand up to someone in the store who's harassing somebody, right?
Right
Like
on.
that to me, it all ties back. But yeah, any of the socials at Chris Pienkowski, straighthourcoaching.com for the business. My YouTube channel, Straight Talking Leadership.
Mm,
I
yeah,
do, very similar content, all leadership related. And, one of the things that I always like to tell people is no matter what you're facing in life, no matter what the challenge is, whether it's an issue or an opportunity, it can be solved through leadership. The way that we lead ourselves, the way that we lead people, but leadership affects everything. So no
mm,
matter what you're facing in life, your ability to lead yourself through it, lead others through it is what's going to kind of take you to the next level.
absolutely, dude. I'll tell you this, like Chris, I love listening to you, and I love reading what you're about, on LinkedIn, and I'm inspired by you. So I hope, I'm sure others will be as well. For our audience, everyone out there, thank you for joining us tonight. And y'all know me, Trevor Martin, RMF Leadership Coaching. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and definitely check Chris out and what he is all about. So once again, y'all, thank you. And Chris, thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Trevor. It was my pleasure. And I'm happy to be here, man. And just watching your growth since we connected and just watching where you're going, dude, you inspire me. So keep it going, brother.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. Hey, sky's the limit.
That's right.
All right,
Rock
man.
on.
Have a good night.
You too.